Welcome back to Geography World's channel, where learning is fun. For this video, we will discuss the answers to question 2 on the 2017 May-June CSEC Geography Paper 2. Remember to follow Geography World on Instagram and Facebook using the link shown on the screen. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Question 2 on the 2017 May-June Geography paper shows us a table that basically depicts the average annual amount of sediment that is deposited into River X during the periods 2005 to 2010. So this is the table with that information. Now, the question that accompanies the table is that you're provided with a graph on the page that follows. Now, on this graph, you're expected to create a bar graph to illustrate the data above, as well as provide a title for the graph. You're also to label the axes correctly. So I've went ahead and I've basically done the graph for you so that you can see. So it's a bar graph, so your bar should be evenly spaced. So on the x-axis, you have the year, and on the y-axis, you have the amount of sediment that is deposited. And the scale is already there for you, as well as the title, which is sediment deposited into River X during 2005 and 2010. A copy of this will be made available down below, so you can always have access to this information. Section B asks us to describe 2 ways by which a river transports its load. Now, a river transports its load in 4 ways, so you can write about any 2. So traction, which is where the larger boulders are dragged along the riverbed. We have saltation, which is where smaller rocks and pebbles are bounced along the riverbed. We have suspension, and this is where very fine particles like clay and silt are basically held up and carried by the river or the water itself. And these basically help to give the water its color. We have solution, and this is where we have soluble minerals that are basically chemically dissolved and are carried by the river or the water. Question C, it basically gives you a table and asks that you describe the shape and the rock structure of the different drainage pattern. So the first one was done for you, so you know that the radial drainage pattern, they basically develops along volcanic cone shaped landform, and this is basically where the river flows outward from a source that is usually found in the central peak, and it is commonly found in volcanic islands, for example like the Eastern Caribbean. So the shape would be circular or dome shape because it takes the shape of the volcanic cone, and the rock type or structure would be the volcanic cone. Now for the trellis drainage pattern, we know that the trellis is basically the least common in the common drainage pattern in the Caribbean. And this is basically formed where they're alternating a belt of resistant and non-resistant rocks. So the major tributaries, they basically erode and flow along the less resistant rocks to basically join the main river at right angle. So the shape of it, it looks as if the rivers join at right angle, and the rock structure will be at alternate bands of resistant and non-resistant rocks. Now, the dendritic drainage pattern, this is basically a pattern that develops where there are homogeneous or same type rocks, and the rivers and its tributaries show a tree-like branching pattern. So the shape would be tree-like or branching pattern, and the rock structure or type would be homogeneous in nature, meaning that they are the same types of rocks. Question D asks to explain how floodplains are formed. Now, your answer may be a set of well-labeled diagrams. So CXC would award you the marks if you have a set of well-labeled and well-drawn diagrams. So for geography, there are certain topics that you can actually go ahead and draw for to accompany your answer that could basically award you points. So for example, the picture that you have that I'm showing on the screen now, it could go for a well-labeled diagram. So I'm going to explain as well how floodplains are formed. Now we know that a floodplain is just an area of flat, fertile land which is covered in water when a river overflows its bank. So when the river overflows its bank, it basically leaves behind layers of aluminum and silt. Now, these materials, they will basically gradually build up to create the floor of the floodplain. Now, they are found in the lower course of the river. So the floodplain is an area that once the river overflows these banks, it is flooded. It is covered underwater. So the floodplain, it basically develops by the river overflowing its bank and depositing materials such as aluminum and silt, which over time builds up. So the height of the floodplain will basically increase as times progress. The diagram below, it is showing you the normal condition of a river with the meanders, and then to your right you'll see that this is the condition of the floodplain when it is in flood. Question E states that for a named Caribbean country, assess the value of any two measures that have been used by national agencies to reduce the impact of flooding. Now, a question like this, a lot of students tend to forget to put in the name of the Caribbean country. You must state which Caribbean country you're referring to. Now, I will just give you a list of measures that have been implemented in most of the Caribbean countries to basically reduce the impact of flooding. So check dams have been installed, and check dams are the small dams usually formed of rock or timber that are basically built across small channels and gullies, and it basically slows down the flow of water. Gabions are basically wire cages that are filled with rocks, and they help to support and strengthen the riverbank. So they basically help to strengthen the riverbank so that it's not easily eroded. We have artificial levees, and the levees are basically just a raised river embankment, so the raising of the riverbank. So once the riverbanks are raised, it basically increases the capability of a river channel. So it makes it less likely for the river to flood, because if the river banks are taller, it means that the channel can hold more water. We also have paved drains. So these are basically wide and deep paved drains, and they are common along the roadside in towns. So paved drains are usually dry during the dry season, but during the wet season we have a prolonged amount of rainfall. You will see that they contain a lot of water. So these, because of how wide and deep they are, they're able to contain a lot of water. Thus, they basically reduce flooding in the towns and the cities. We also have seawalls, because some coastal areas are easily flooded when they have prolonged amount of rainfall. So the development of seawall helps to basically reduce flooding in the coastal areas. These measures have been applied to many Caribbean countries. So for example, Jamaica has, at different sections of the island, we have some of these. So you can always use a named Caribbean country. As I always tell my students, it's best that you use the country that you're from, because you're more knowledgeable about it. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your post notification bell in order to receive more videos like this. Leave comments below suggesting geographic topics that you would want me to present on. In the comment section below, comment the name of your school and the territory for a shout out in my next video. Until then, bye bye.